dominant on the penultimate day, day 4 of the opening test match against New Zealand in Kanpur. They have, of course, declared after scoring 234 for 7, setting New Zealand 284 to win. Now New Zealand have gone to Stumps at 4 for 1, and they need 280 to win on the final day of this test match. It was a peculiar kind of a day because you'd expect such ups and downs, such ebbs and flows in a test match towards the end of a test match in India. Look at what happened. Last night, I said India had a slender advantage with that 49-run lead they got over New Zealand after bowling them out for 296 in their first innings. I told you, Pujara, Rahane are not in form. There is a concern around the openers, even though Shubman Gill got a half century. Shubman Gill, of course, got out last night, and then Cheteshwar Pujara and Mayank Agarwal got a bit of a start, but again, disappointing for Pujara, out in the 20s again. Again, Mayank Agarwal did not really look comfortable at all. He kept getting squared up and finally ended up losing his wicket. India had slipped to 55 for 4 at one stage. Concerns around Ajinkya Rahane's form. We've been talking about Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane's form. The captain, the stand-in captain, got out cheaply again in the second innings. He's just and that put India in a lot of bother. However, Shreyas Iyer, who scored 100 on debut, went on to score another half century. There were crucial runs again from R. Ashwin. He got a 38 in the first innings, 32 in the second innings, and Wriddhiman Saha, his place was under the scanner as well. It's a little unfortunate for Wriddhiman Saha because he keeps wickets. He's been India's best wicket keeper for a number of years now in Test cricket. But you look at the fact that he was dropped after the Adelaide Test. Rightly, Rishabh Pant came in and grabbed his opportunities, and he has been persisted with. But again, with Rishabh Pant deciding to rest for this particular Test series, the focus was on Wriddhiman Saha, and of course, young Kona Bharat, who had such an impressive day behind the stumps yesterday. He just looked so good against three top quality spinners. He was just really, really classy with his keeping skills. But Wriddhiman Saha, of course, had a stiff neck for wherein exactly Bharat had to come in as a substitute. On Sunday, however, Wriddhiman Saha, all eyes were on him after that collapse. Then there was this half-century partnership between Shreyas Iyer and R. Ashwin. R. Ashwin got out to Kyle Jamieson when he replaced Tim Southee after a long spell, really. R. Ashwin just playing on, dragging the ball back into his stumps, and Wriddhiman Saha, he batted beautifully. He started off being a little aggressive. He took on Will Somerville, had an early escape. It was a difficult chance for Henry Nicholls, but one that New Zealand would have expected him to take, really. And then the next ball again, he announced his intent with a beautifully struck 6. And from there on, Wriddhiman Saha remained unbeaten on 61. Meanwhile, Shreyas Iyer creating history. The first Indian batter to score 100 on debut and follow it up with a half century in the second innings. Of course, the great Sunil Gavaskar had got half centuries in both innings of his debut test. So Shreyas Iyer is now in really elite company. And in a sense, also in an exclusive list, in an exclusive club, because no Indian batter has ever scored 100 on debut and followed that up with a half century. Well then, that's that for India's performances. Also, it was a little startling, India's tactics towards the end of their innings. You could realize that once the lead had crossed to 200, 220, you saw first Shreyas Iyer taking his chances against the spinners. He hit that beautifully timed boundary of Tim Southee, and then another loose delivery from Tim Southee. Shreyas Iyer really could have hit it anywhere, but he just gloved it to the wicket keeper. But therein, towards the end, that partnership, especially between Saha and Axar Patel, was a little startling. Yes, New Zealand were trying to take out time from the game. They wouldn't have wanted to bat many overs tonight, and especially with the light going off pretty quickly in Kanpur. It's the start of the winters, remember. Why didn't India probably go for a few extra runs? Yes, 284, 280 to get on the final day is not going to be easy. But again, you saw the pitch. There was variable bounce. A few balls kept low. There was some sudden turn and bounce from certain deliveries, but there were no real demons on the surface. There was no real deviation of the surface as such. Should Wriddhiman Saha and Axar Patel at that stage, should they have gotten some runs more quickly, so that India could have had probably more than the 4 overs which they eventually bowled. India bowled 4 overs, and New Zealand went to stumps at 4 for 1. Probably they would have been looking at 8 to 10 overs to unsettle the New Zealanders a little. Maybe gone to stumps with a couple of wickets. Who knows? Put some more pressure on New Zealand. But again, India clearly ahead in this test match. 9 wickets to get for India, 280 runs to get for New Zealand. Dramatic collapses have happened in the past in so many occasions in test matches in India. On the final day, it's not going to be easy for New Zealand. India looking at 9 wickets again on Monday when play resumes, with the ball still pretty new, relatively new, only 4 overs from the two spinners, Ashwin and Axar Patel, 2 overs each. Unfortunate for New Zealand, Will Young trapped LBW by Ashwin. Um, Will Young and Tom Latham, they reviewed the decision, but it was clearly too late. The 15-second timer had gone off, and um, then the Indians, especially Ashwin and Ajinkya Rahane, immediately pointed out to the umpire that, look, they've run out of time and they can't review the decision. And Will Young was unfortunate because TV replays showed that the ball was missing leg stump. And had he reviewed it, he would have still been at the crease. Of course, New Zealand sent in Will Somerville as a night watchman. So you can expect some lively overs from the India Pacers as well tomorrow in the morning session when play gets underway. But the one question that would still keep going on in my head is, why didn't they show a little more intent with the bat towards the end, especially Axar Patel and Wriddhiman Saha? They played out a fair few dot balls. You could sense New Zealand's tactics. They wanted to slow the game down from their point of view. But could India have pressed on a little earlier and gotten those extra runs to have given the bowlers some cushion of a few extra overs? Well, but still, India in clearly a very, very, very dominant position. 280 is what New Zealand need. 9 wickets for the Indians. In the first innings, it was primarily the New Zealand openers. Tom Latham, 95, Will Young, 89. One of them is out of the way. However, unfortunate for New Zealand. But a wicket is a wicket. In New Zealand, are one down. And then they have a very, very experienced middle order as well. Kane Williamson, Ross Taylor, Henry Nichols. All these three didn't get too many runs in the first innings. A lot will rely on how Tom Latham can continue from that first innings performance. Really, 95, very, very classy knock. The spinners are going to weigh in heavily. Not a surprise. The India did not go to the Pacers to start off the second innings. It was Ashwin and Axar Patel, the two most successful bowlers for India in the first innings. That is going to be a massive challenge for the Black Caps tomorrow, facing up to Ashwin, Axar Patel, Ravindra Jadeja. And remember, Umesh Yadav can be very, very dangerous in these conditions. Bowled a peach to get Kane Williamson out on the stroke of lunch on day 3. So New Zealand clearly have their task cut out. As for India's batting, yes, superbly impressive from Shreyas Iyer. His performance has reflected his rich run of form in domestic cricket, his experience through the years, having trained under Rahul Dravid earlier. And the best thing was, yes, experts did point out certain technical deficiencies in Shreyas Iyer. A young batsman, only his first test match. He will continue to learn on the job. But the most important, the most impressive facet about Shreyas Iyer was his skill set and his mindset. He's a naturally aggressive batsman. We've all seen that. For those of you who follow domestic cricket, you would have noticed Shreyas Iyer's instincts against the spinners. He likes to take them on. And he has done that in the IPL. He's done that in T20 internationals. He's done that in one-day internationals. But Test cricket is a different field altogether, different challenges. And it was very, very pleasing to see Shreyas Iyer curb his natural instinct when he saw there were wickets falling around him. Before him, he came in, dropped anchor again, and batted beautifully for that partnership with Ashwin. Ashwin was the more aggressive of the two, but it was important for a recognized set batsman to stay on and really build partnerships. And that's exactly what Shreyas Iyer did. He was watchful, he was circumspect. He was also, however, willing to punish the loose balls from the spinners, from the pacers. You saw some superb stroke play, especially that 6 to get into the 40s when he was on 37, and just beautifully piloted this innings. He made this innings beautifully, constructed this innings beautifully, and that was the most pleasing thing to see. And that is what Test cricket is all about, isn't it? It's a reflection of the skills you bring in and also your temperament, your mindset, and how you can cope with pressure. And Shreyas Iyer did point that out in an interview with the host broadcasters right after the day's play. He said, of course, this is his first test match for India, but he's been in similar conditions. He's been in similar experiences in first class cricket, and that helped him build that innings, construct that innings so wisely. Like he batted like he's such a mature test batsman, isn't he? Both the innings. And remember, both this the 105 in the first innings and the 65 in the second innings came in very difficult, trying, demanding conditions. India were in a spot of bother when Shreyas Iyer was just beginning to find his feet in his maiden test innings. He was India were 145 for 4, and then again on the fourth day, India were 55 for 5, 51 for 5, beg your pardon. And Shreyas Iyer knew that the onus was once again on him, and with R. Ashwin, very, very experienced, playing his 80th Test match. He's again piloted the innings so well for India lower down the order over the years. And Wriddhiman Saha, he was, like I said, under pressure to come in and perform. But yes, Mayank Agarwal and Shubman Gill are not India's first choice openers. Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul will be back for the South Africa series. But problems around Ajinkya Rahane. Yes, he's standing in as captain. He might well go on to win another test match as captain. He could remain unbeaten in his tests as captain, but his form with the bat has been a talking point for far too long. What happens when Virat Kohli comes back for Mumbai? Can you leave out Shreyas Iyer, especially after a performance like this, after a debut like this? Just brilliant. 170 runs, Shreyas Iyer in his first test match, 105 in the first, 65 in the second. Ajinkya Rahane has gotten his chances, hasn't he? And like I've been saying this, unlike Pujara, who had a massive watershed series in Australia 3, 4 years back, Ajinkya Rahane hasn't had that kind of a series, and he has struggled. Yes, you got to look back at Ajinkya Rahane's 100 against Australia and Melbourne in the Boxing Day Test match. But apart from that, over the last several 2, 3 years, if you look back at Ajinkya Rahane's performance, there's nothing to write home about. And is this time finally for a change, especially with especially at the beginning of this World Test Championship cycle? Also, the pressure will be on Cheteshwar Pujara, but I think for the time he will be safe because number 3 is a specialized position. That is in my books, it's a specialized position. Rahul Dravid did brilliantly for India. Cheteshwar Pujara has been doing brilliantly. But he has struggled. He has clearly struggled, especially in this jump from the start of 2020 till about now to the end of 2021, which means almost 2 years that Cheteshwar Pujara hasn't done anything significant. Yes, he was stellar in that Australia series. He was brave. He took a lot of hits on his body, got some crucial runs, stayed put when he had to, when the team needed him to, played a couple of attractive innings in England. He was looking good. At the start today, but again, he would want your number 3 to really get on those big runs and pilot the innings from there, the way Shreyas Iyer has done at number 5. So does Ajinkya Rahane go out now when Virat Kohli comes back? And the two openers, by virtue of them being specialized openers, there's no KL Rahul. Of course, Rohit Sharma was rested for the series. Prithvi Shaw's with the India A team in South Africa. Mayank Agarwal and Shubman Gill do look safe for the Mumbai Test match, but questions will be asked of Mayank Agarwal as well. He's such a talented cricketer, but he's wasted these couple of opportunities, not looking comfortable at all, squared up by Kylie Jamieson. Vinay Dadich, how impressed are you with Shreyas playing so well in both the innings? Like I said, Vinay, absolutely impressed. Very, very high quality innings. That again, yes, he has. There will be several factors. Vikram Rathore and Rahul Dravid will be working around with Shreyas Iyer, but Rahul Dravid has worked with Shreyas for several years now. But like I said, it was his temperament. It was his ability to curb his natural instinct, to pull back against the spinners and defend when he needed to, and then take them on when he knew that India were in a relatively safe position. That for me was the most impressive facet about Shreyas Iyer. Also the fact that he got these runs in very, very difficult and different conditions. Uday Shankar, very slow batting at the end. There was no intent. Rahul Dravid is a defensive coach. Well, I was talking about this exact scenario with India. Probably I thought that they should have gotten on with it really, if only to give the bowlers maybe 6, 7 overs extra to go and take a crack at the New Zealand batsmen. But no, and I don't buy into this theory that Rahul Dravid is the defensive coach. Only his first Test match as captain. Come on, let us give him some respect and some love. Rahul Dravid was never a very defensive batsman. He would, just because he didn't get those sixes like Yuvraj and Sehwag did not mean Dravid had a defensive mindset. He's one of the most aggressive India players, if you like. He's very, very aggressive as a coach. I'm sure he'll bring on that intent and aggression as a coach. But yes, it's difficult for us to fathom certain things sitting on the outside. I'm sure they would have had discussions in the dressing room, but from looking from the outside, I felt that they should have shown a little more intent, if only, like I said, to give their bowlers a cushion of 6 or 7 overs tonight, and try to get a couple more probably try to get a couple more wickets for to make life easier for tomorrow. Well, Raja Shekhar is saying Rahane should be given rest, and please Shreyas Iyer in Mumbai. Arpan, Shreyas used to walk on these situations a lot on domestic. That's important experience. Well played. Absolutely, Arpan. I agree, and that's exactly what I said. Arpan, hope at least Rahane defending not going on. I'm not defending Rahane at all. Like I said, I'm calling a spade, like you said, Arpan. Exactly what I said at the start of the show, that it is time for, it is time for Rahane to probably feel the heat, and he will probably. I feel the change in the batting lineup should be Rahane out, Kohli in. And you cannot touch Shreyas Iyer now after he scored 170 runs in his debut Test match. And Rahane has been far too long that he's produced those kind of innings. He rightly, with a young batsman coming in and showing the intent, the purpose, and the desire and the hunger. Ajinkya Rahane will be under pressure, and I think he's gotten a lot of chances, gotten a lot of opportunities, but Ajinkya Rahane has clearly missed out on them, and he will be feeling the heat now with some hungry young batsmen lining up around that side, lining up around that squad. This is really this is going to be one of the decisions that the Rahul Dravid Virat Kohli leadership will now have to take. This is the first time, of course, Virat Kohli will get together with Rahul Dravid when the team heads out to Mumbai after this Kanpur Test match, just in a couple of days. But yes, I think the axe is going to come on Ajinkya Rahane after this performance with the bat. Arik Jota Mehdi, Wriddhiman Saha needs to get a run of games and then see if he deserves the spot of Pant. Well, I have addressed this as well, but since this is a point now, fair enough. But Wriddhiman Saha did get his opportunities. He's no doubt a brilliant wicketkeeper, but in modern day Test cricket, in the modern game, you need all rounders. You need wicketkeepers who can also be significant contributors with the bat. And to be fair, Saha hasn't done that very consistently. He can bat, not that he can't. He has 3 Test match hundreds. I remember that really good knock against Australian Ranchi, which happens to be his best, 117. He did get some very crucial runs in tough conditions at home. But with Rishabh Pant batting the way he has in Test cricket, those match-winning performances in Australia, match-winning performances against England at home, it's going to be difficult to leave out Rishabh Pant. But right now, I think the fight right now would be to stay on as the second wicketkeeper, because both Saha and Bharat would understand that Pant will be the first choice wicketkeeper across formats, whether it's T20s, ODIs, or Test cricket. I think the battle right now, would be to stay on in the squad as the second wicketkeeper. Wriddhiman Saha has done his chances. No harm with that fine performance, an unbeaten 61, and those runs again came in very, very trying conditions. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this live broadcast. This is the scenario then. India have struck right at the close of play. New Zealand have been reduced to 4 for 1. The score summarizes. I'll just summarize the score quickly. India 345 in the first innings. New Zealand responded with 296. India 234 for 7 declared in their second innings. And New Zealand have gone to Stumps at 4 for 1. And they need 280 runs on the final day. India need 9 wickets. This is going to be a very, very interesting final day. Okay, Arpan, I'll take your final. I'll take the above last question. Virendra Sharma has been very horrible since the past, beat England, T20s or Tests. Why do you think BCCI persists with him? Is he the best among the worst? Are actions taken against umpire any rule? Well, it's not a question of action being taken against umpire. Arpan, first off, anybody can have a bad day. Anybody can go through a poor form or phase, whether it's a player or an umpire. Yes, I agree. Virendra Sharma hasn't had a great Test match. I will also go on to say that the umpiring hasn't been of the highest quality in this Test match. It is not about action. I mean, what action can you take against someone who's not performing well? But there are ratings for umpires as well, and there are obviously people watching or how the umpires are performing. So yes, that is exactly why umpires would also want to do well continuously to be to get more games. Let's just put it at that. But I mean, taking action against an umpire, that's just too harsh, isn't it? I mean, anybody can make mistakes, and clearly, I would agree that the umpiring could be much better, much better, especially at this level. Raj Shekhar, could you analyze why Indian fast bowlers could not collect as many wickets like New Zealand players and vice versa with New Zealand spinners? Very good point. This is something I've been wondering. First off, with the New Zealand spinners, they're not as experienced. They are not as experienced as India spinners. A lot of factors. Even if the pitches turn square, even if there is variable bounce, even if there are stuffs and roughs on the pitches, it's not easy to just hit them consistently and get that purchase. Clearly, William Somerville, Ajaz Patel, and Rachin Ravindra are not as experienced as Ravindra Jadeja or Ashwin. And of course, Axar Patel has bowled a lot in domestic cricket. He's had a startling, sensational start to his Test career. Five wicket hauls in his first 7 innings. It's not easy. And secondly, I don't think this pitch has been as devious as you would expect, especially on the penalty midday. You would have expected maybe a lot more turn consistently, but it was largely a flattish surface. I'm not saying it was easy to get runs here. It was difficult, but it wasn't impossible. And the spinners, as spinners, you have to be really efficient and skillful to be able to operate in these conditions. And even the great Shane Warne, Muttiah Muralitharan have come to India and not had as much success as their India counterparts in India. So it's not easy. Just because you are a spinner operating on Indian pitches in Test cricket does not guarantee you automatic success. It's mindset, skill set, and the temperament, and also the experience of bowling on these pitches. With the fast bowlers, bang on, I agree. So far, of course, Ishant and Umesh have yet to bowl in the second innings, but I feel Tim Southey and Kylie Jamieson were just brilliant. Tim Southey has an excellent record in Asia, by the way. Kyle Jamieson, brilliant again. And Kyle Jamieson has used his height very well. Tim Southey, very wily customer for a swing bowler to operate like the way he has. 8 wickets in this Test match, 5 in the first innings, 3 in the second innings, 7 wickets for Kyle Jamieson as well. Top class bowling, top class performance. And they hit the right lens, they hit the right areas. Kyle Jamieson troubled the batsman with his height. There were rarely loose deliveries from Tim Southey and Kyle Jamieson. With Ishant Sharma and Umesh Yadav, especially with Ishant Sharma, you could somehow sense, with the Ishant Sharma bowled a couple of no balls as well, 3 or 4 no balls in his first 12 overs. It did look like he wasn't quite match ready the last time. And Ishant and Umesh largely play Test cricket. They largely play only one format now. They don't even play the IPL. Where they part of their IPL squads, but they don't play too many games. They hardly play any games in the IPL. So you could see that there was no match practice with Ishant and Umesh, and that probably made the difference. But Umesh again bowled a peach of a delivery to get rid of Kane Williamson, and I suspect that in the second innings probably you'll get to see some peaches from Umesh Yadav as well. But again, I feel that it's going to be largely the spinners who will be pressed into service by Ajinkya Rahane in that second innings. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your comments, all your questions. There are only so many I can take at a time on one show, but we'll come back to you with a lot more of your points and opinions and questions and comments. Do keep them flooding in though. Thank you so much for joining me on this broadcast. We'll come back to you tomorrow. Hopefully for Indian fans with an Indian victory, whatever way it goes, it's going to be a scintillating final day of Test cricket in Kanpur between India and New Zealand. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Have a safe evening, and do subscribe to Sports Today. Thank you.